All right, I just heated up my tea and ready for another take at this. In today's presentation, we're going to talk about the Perfekt mit Präfixverben, also Verben mit Präfixen. Ja? So, get right after it. Are these prefixes separable or inseparable? There's not that much in here. I've got more. Well, they're separable. Okay, so in the present tense, that would mean that the prefix would go to the end, right? So if I want to say I call my mom, or I am calling my mom, ich rufe meine Mama an, right? Looking at the next one, aufräumen, to clean up. Ich räume mein Büro auf. Ausgehen, so to go out, like to go out on the town or whatever. Ich gehe heute Abend aus, right? So that's how separable prefixes get used in the present tense. You separate the prefix from the verb stem, you chuck it at the end of the sentence, okay? If you'll recall, and I hope that you will, participles go at the end of the sentence, right? So you're not going to do that same thing with these, okay? But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we need to talk about forming participles. We've seen that with weak verbs, you just take the verb stem, you put a GE in front of the verb, and you put a T at the end, right? And then with other verbs, the strong verbs, you put a GE at the front, and then like the rest of the participle is just something, right? Just depends on what it is. With mixed verbs, there's maybe like a vowel change or maybe a couple consonants change, but you still get the GE at the front and the T at the end. So my question to you is, looking at these separable prefix verbs forming these participles, where does the GE go? Hopefully you've pieced it together. It goes between the separable prefix verb, it goes between the separable prefix and the verb stem, right? So here, ihr habt das Zimmer aufgeräumt. You all tidied up the room. So you take the auf, you separate it, you put the GE in there, and then you have geräumt. So aufgeräumt, is that strong or weak? It's weak, because it's just the GE in front and a T at the end, and nothing between there gets changed to the verb stem. Okay? Wir haben Kuchen mitgebracht. We brought cake with. We brought cake with. Yeah, that's something we would say. So once again, the mit gets separated from the verb stem, the GE goes in there, and then you have bracht. So this is a mixed verb. Mitbringen is you can see it down at the, I point at my screen like you can see it. Bringen, mitbringen, mitgebracht, right? So it still gets the GE in front and the T at the end, but there's some change to the stem. So that's mixed, right? And then umgezogen is strong. So still the GE goes between the separable prefix and the verb stem, but the participle, that's the participle. The infinitive is umziehen. You can also see that down here, umziehen, right? So without the prefix, it's ziehen, which means to pull. Ziehen, gezogen, right? So that's strong. With the separable prefix, it means it means a couple things, but it can mean, in the instance that it's being used, it means to move, like to move to another place, right? you can see the connection between pulling and then moving somewhere, right? So umziehen, umgezogen, right? So that's the that's how you form these roughly, right? So if you know the participle of the base verb, like rufen oder räumen oder gehen, then it's pretty easy to form the participles with these separable prefixes, right? So, for instance, if I'm thinking about gehen, right? I know, I don't know if you do, I know that its participle is gegangen. Also, ich gehe, ich bin gegangen, right? So knowing that, how do we form this participle with this prefix in front of it, knowing that it's separable? Well, you just slap that aus in front of it. Ich bin ausgegangen, right? So nothing changes too much here, right? Things can still be strong or weak or mixed, and then you just put that prefix in front of it. Okay, let's do one more, and hopefully this one's easier for you. Vorstellen. So stellen on its own is weak. So you should be able to form that participle. Stellen, ich habe, Ich stelle etwas, like ich stelle meine Tasse auf den Tisch. Okay? I set it on the table, right? Describing that action that I just made, ich habe die Tasse auf den Tisch gestellt. Okay, so if the participle is gestellt without its prefix, what is the participle with that prefix? It's vorgestellt, right? So it's still weak. Nothing really changes to the participle except for the prefix, right? So that text there just says basically what I have just said. You can see we can pick out the weak ones, the weak verbs, pretty quickly because the participles end with T, and maybe they're mixed, but they look like weak, right? So geräumt, right? Aufgeräumt, that's weak. Kaufen, gekauft. We just talked about vorgestellt. Gebracht is mixed. There's a change to the stem, but it still has a T at the end. Getauscht, tauschen, getauscht, umtauschen, umgetauscht. So I think that's to exchange. Like you would exchange money when you go to a different country or something like that. Wegräumen is to put away, like you put away your socks or something or whatever. So that's also weak. Okay, so are these prefixes separable? If by process of elimination you said no, then you would be correct. And if you'd say no for any other reason, you would also be correct. Oh, is that nice in the microphone? Or is that bothering you? Sorry. Pouring more tea for myself. Could do a little ASMR section now. No? Is that nice? No? Okay, sorry. These prefixes are not separable. So what that means is that you're not going to get a GE with any of these. Okay? So there are prefixes that block the GE prefix. So the GE is that prefix that goes on the participle. So these prefixes block that GE prefix. And that kind of makes sense, right? If you have an inseparable prefix, you don't want to put another prefix in there. It would sound ridiculous, right? It would be like this stacking up of prefixes and there'd be like confusion, right? So if it has an inseparable prefix, then you don't put a GE on it, right? So we've seen these verbs with inseparable prefixes before, and then, depending on whether the verbs are strong or weak, you'll get a T or you'll get some sort of change in this stem, and we'll go from there. Instead of talking about it theoretically, let's take a look at it. So, deuten would be looking just at this first verb. Deuten would be to like point at or something like that. Bedeuten means to mean something, right? So, deuten, gedeutet, that's weak. But with this prefix on it, you don't get the GE. You say bedeuten, bedeutet. Yeah? Beginnen. It's strong. I don't think there's not a word ginnen, right? So this is like, if you think about the word to begin, we don't have a word gin. It's strong, no GE, begonnen. Suchen, to search, right? Or to look for. So it's suchen, gesucht. But with this BE prefix on it, it means to visit someone, right? So besuchen, that blocks the GE prefix in the participle, so besucht. Ich habe sie besucht. I visited them or her, depending on what you're trying to say. You can look at these on your own time. I don't need to run through all of these. Just that we need to drive the point home that these inseparable prefixes don't get a GE in front of the stem. They didn't give us... No, but sorry. Thinking out loud. Okay. So this is a note on all of that. Most separable prefixes and inseparable prefix verbs are conjugated with haben. That's the case. That's the case with all verbs, right? So it's true for these. It's true for all verbs. The helping verb for most verbs is haben, right? However, prefix verbs that indicate a change in condition or location and do not take a direct object are conjugated with sein. And that's true also of all verbs, right? This is just a reiteration, a rehashing of what we've already seen. In most instances, it's haben, but if there's a change of state or location, and the verb cannot take a direct object, meaning I can't do that verb to something else, like travel. I can't travel something else, right? I can't travel you. No. So that takes sein as a helping verb, right? So, der Hund hat den sauberen Boden verschmutzt. So the dog has made dirty the floor, right? So the floor is a direct object, so it's definitely going to be haben, right? Wir sind mit unseren Großeltern in die Schweiz mitgefahren, right? So there's a change of location, and you can't, in German anyways, you can't drive something. You can't, it's, fahren is really more like, I wish I knew like a better word for it. It's kind of like travel. It's more similar to travel than to actually like sit in your car and drive it, you know? So that is conjugated or formed with sein. Du hast den dreckigen Teppich rausgebracht. You took out the dirty rug. Once again, the dirty rug is being acted upon. The dirty rug is the direct object. So rausbringen, while there is a change of location for the rug anyways, the rug is a direct object, so it has to take haben as its helping verb. Tobias ist gestern Abend ausgegangen. Tobias went out last night. You can't go out something, right? You can go out to something, but that's not the same thing as taking a direct object, right? So it's Tobias ist gestern Abend ausgegangen. Looking at this next note, since prefixes change the meaning of a verb, in some cases a prefixed verb is conjugated with sein, while its base form is conjugated with haben. That's a good point. And I mentioned this verb earlier. Ziehen means to pull. So if you look at the second Beispielsatz, example sentence, die Hunde haben den Schlitten gezogen. The dogs pulled the sled. The sled is being acted upon, even if there is some motion involved there. It doesn't matter because the direct object is there. It takes the direct object. So it's haben. However, when you move something, I guess in German you cannot. I'm telling you, you can't, right? Because we move our stuff. We move. If there's a, this is kind of interesting to think about. We moved last year. Has a slightly different feeling to it than we moved our stuff, right? You wouldn't say we moved all of our stuff last year, right? That could mean you moved it to storage, you moved it to a different room, or you moved it 2 inches, right? It feels slightly different than saying we moved last year, right? You wouldn't really say we moved and then have a direct object and have that mean we relocated, right? Anyways, in German you use umgezogen with sein. Sorry to do a little tangent there. So we're going to practice. Pause. You try this. Come back to me. So pause the video. Try this on your own. Come back. There's one more slide of exercises, and then we'll be done. Okay. So, liebe Kinder. So räumen is weak, so it's geräumt. And you clean something, you tidy up something, so it's haben. So liebe Kinder, what's your subject? It's ihr. How do we conjugate haben for ihr? Das ist habt aufgeräumt. Cool? Have you tidied up y'all's room? Frau Scholz, bleh, den Wäschetrockner, bleh. So this is saying that Frau Scholz sold the like drying stand for like laundry, Wäschetrockner. Oh, that might just be dryer and not like stand. In any case, she sold it, which means it takes a direct object. So we know our helping verb is haben, conjugated for Frau Scholz, so that's hat. And then verkaufen, the ver is inseparable, and kaufen is weak, so it's verkauft. David, bleh, seine Freundin, bleh. So, David does something to his girlfriend. His girlfriend is the direct object, so we know that it's haben, and it's conjugated for David, so it's hat. David hat seine Freundin. This is a strong verb, and the prefix is severable. So, David hat seine Freundin angerufen. Doesn't really fit in there. Anna. So Anna is not the subject. Don't be fooled. I am the subject. And we've talked about this one. Stellen is weak, vor is separable. So stellen gestellt, vorgestellt. And I'm asking you if I've introduced my new friend or boyfriend. So it's habe. Habe ich dir meinen neuen Freund vorgestellt? Okay. Mama, eine schöne Vase zu Weihnachten. So, bekommen, I love this one. Because kommen is strong, so kommen, gekommen, but be is inseparable, so you don't get the G. It's bekommen. The participle of bekommen is bekommen. It's the same thing. And she definitely got something, right? She received a thing, so that means it takes a direct object. So Mama hat eine schöne Vase zu Weihnachten bekommen. Oh, du den Ring in der Waschmaschine entdecken. Entdecken is inseparable and weak, so you get no GE, you just get the T. And you did something to the ring, right? The ring is here the direct object. So, du hast den Ring in der Waschmaschine entdeckt. Sorry, I can't read that sentence without thinking about the Lord of the Rings. Ausgehen. Aha. So there's going to be no direct object here because it's just talking about going out. So our helping verb is sein. I am the subject. Ich is the subject. So ich bin mit meinen Freunden. Aus is separable. So ausgegangen. Okay. Be is inseparable, right? So it's going to block the ge prefix for the participle. Bestellen means to order, and you can definitely order something, right? You can, have a direct object with that. So the helping verb is going to be haben, and our subject is wir. Wir haben eine Kaffeemaschine im Internet bestellt. Once again, look at vorgestellt und bestellt, right? It's still that S-T-E-L-L-T, but for is separable, so there's a G-E in front of it, where B-E is inseparable, so there's no G-E in front of it. But that base part of it stays the same, right? So once that clicks, hopefully some of this will start making sense. Bezahlen means to pay. And certainly for this, you can pay for something. So BE blocks the GE prefix, and it's weak. And then ihr is the subject. So haben conjugated for ihr is habt. Für den Wäschetrockner bezahlt. Maria. Du das Geschirr. Geschirr is dishes. And so you've done something. Maria has done something or not done something. That's a question. And wegräumen is to put away. So weg is separable. Räumen is weak. So it's gonna get that GE. And you can. This verb takes a direct object, so the helping verb is haben. So hast du das Geschirr weggeräumt? All right. Second to last. Wait, no. Sorry. This is the last question on this one. Then we have up another slide. I'm getting tired. How about y'all? Ich. Vergessen means to forget. You can certainly forget something, right? It takes a direct object. So haben is the participle. Ich habe die Hausaufgabe zu Hause vergessen. It's another one where it's strong and the prefix is inseparable, so it does not get a GE. So it ends up being the same as the infinitive. Ich habe das vergessen. Okay. All right. So pause. I won't go as deep into detail when answering this, but pause. Try to put these into the perfect, and then we're done. Okay, we're back. Mein Bruder, so mitkommen, that's a change of state, right? So it's going to be sein. Mein Bruder ist mitgekommen. Okay, so that's a kommen is strong. Ich stelle meine Eltern vor. I'm going to introduce my parents. Haben is your helping verb. So ich habe meine Eltern vorgestellt. I introduced my parents. Not to each other, but to someone else. Georg kommt in Zürich an. So this is George arrived in Zurich. So Georg ist in Zürich angekommen. Cool. Du besuchst das Museum. So you visit the museum. So there's not like a travel here, even though it kind of sounds like there might be. This is the thing that you do when you're already there. So du hast das Museum besucht. That BE is blocks the GE prefix. Wir bringen ein Geschenk mit. Bringen is mixed verb. Bringen gebracht. Mit is obviously separable. You see it over here at the end. Wir haben ein Geschenk mitgebracht. Sarah vergisst ihre Handtasche. The VER is not separable. You see it there on the verb. So Sarah hat ihre Handtasche vergessen. Der Professor wiederholt die Grammatik. Wieder is not separable. It's right next to the verb. And the professor's doing that to the grammar. He's reviewing it. Der Professor hat die Grammatik wiederholt. Ihr schaut bei dem Fußballmatch zu. You all are at the football match watching, something like that. Ihr habt bei dem Fußballmatch zugeschaut, right? So if that prefix is over there at the end of the sentence, like mit, for, an, mit, zu, right? It goes, the GE goes between it, right? That's sort of the trend we're seeing here. All right, that was it. Let me know if you have any questions. All right. Good luck. We'll see y'all later. Bye.